So today we're going to be doing a acceptance Vipassana meditation. So this is the main technique taught in the teachings of Buddhism. So is the main sort of like tool or technique through which the Buddha taught we can eradicate our suffering and discover the truth of our being. If you'll notice, when we start paying attention, the mind, the body, and what we call the external world, these are all always in a constant flux of expansion, contraction. So you can notice this from like the thought level to the emotion or feeling level to the sensation level and to circumstantial level. Everything is in a constant changeful flux, and it's always expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction. An example that I can give you of this is actually when we were at the Vipassana retreat. And I remember you have to, during that retreat, you really have to sit for long periods of time. So it's very, very difficult for someone who hasn't actually sat in meditation for long periods of time, let alone them. But it's like, it's even difficult, even if you meditate, like, let's say 2 hours a day, which is also a lot, right? But even for someone who meditates 2 hours a day, sitting for like 10 hours a day is very, very difficult. And what you'll notice is that during the Vipassana practice, you are told to be completely still at the body level. That even if you have an impulse to move, you don't move. You observe the impulse even. So what you'll notice is that when you're sitting for really long, there are certain parts of your body which will begin to ache really, really hard. And so you are asked to observe that rather than reacting to the pain or resisting the pain, you have the capacity to observe even the very painful contraction that's happening at the body level and the very painful contraction that is happening at the mind level. So the Buddha taught that it is not this constant pain or pleasure that is the cause of your misery, right? Because so you were asked to observe that pain, and like you were really asked to sit through that period where you were going through a lot of pain sitting down still, because eventually a time would come where the meditation would end and you would be able to relax your body and the pain would go away. And that's what we can call like the release of pain, which then is pleasure, right? Expansion. So the Buddha taught that it's not expansion, contraction, pleasure, pain. It is not change that is the cause of our misery. It is our clinging to pleasure and our resisting of pain, our clinging to expansion, our attachment to expansion, and our aversion to pain or contraction. That's where we really suffer. Whereas in truth, any pain or discomfort, you do have the capacity within you to simply be aware of without suffering. This is very foreign to us when we begin, but this becomes more and more familiar and natural as we proceed. We don't even know this in the beginning. This practice introduces this to us. This practice introduces us to this fact that we can observe this entire expansion contraction without making it into a problem through attachment and resistance. In your plain observation of expansion contraction, in your plain observation of pleasure and pain, the sufferer within you dies. The tendency that this sufferer has to constantly arise and attach and resist, cling and resist, that tendency starts to become exposed and starts to die. And he says that, so Buddha taught that this is, right, the way to eradicate our suffering because right, we were disassociating our being from the sufferer, which is all mental. We start to see that I am not that which resists or clings. I am not that which prefers or fears. I am not that which desires, very, very clearly and experientially. Therefore, our beingness, my selfhood, is being separated, disassociated, freed up from this sufferer. So not only is this practice the like a technique to eradicate our suffering, but it also starts to reveal to us many universal truths about the nature of reality, the nature of our very own self. Because the Buddha taught that as long as we remain as the sufferer, constantly in the grasp of its perspective, constantly living from that point of view, the nature of reality will always remain hidden. The sufferer is always forever focused in the objective material world. Its entire preoccupation is with the material world. Therefore, with that limited perspective, there can be no deeper true like understanding. So as we begin to expose this sufferer and disassociate from it and see clearly that it is not what I am, not only does our suffering start to melt away, regardless of if your circumstances change or not, but also you start to become open to wisdom. So let's begin. So this is what we understand the magnitude of this practice. Okay, it is a very simple practice, but it is a profound practice, and only through the practice, the technique, do we start to really experience this truth. You can't. It makes sense on a mental level always, and we resonate with it, but it has no value unless practiced in the most difficult of times. In the most difficult of times, it's not enough to just, hey, be satisfied as being the sufferer. We must be vigilant. We must be devoted to the same principle, even when it's difficult. But the way to practice in the difficult times is to begin here and see these principles very clearly at play. Okay. You can close your eyes if you wish. And we start by simply observing the sensation of the body. You can focus on any particular body part or just the body as a whole. When your attention keeps drifting away, just keep bringing it back to the sensations of the body, no matter what they are. And notice that within you, which is trying to maybe make something happen, or trying to do something with the sensations of the body, or creating an image of the sensations of the body. Or it's looking for particular sensations. Don't identify with that. The moment you notice yourself thinking those things and imagining those things, you have become that sufferer. You have become that imaginer. You go inside of it almost, become that. All that you must do is just discard it and just bring your attention back to the sensations of the body. Again, it could be any specific body part or the body as a whole. You could even observe different parts of the body, and maybe the attention is moving around to different parts of the body, acknowledging the sensation that is present there. But the principle here is just plain attention. Noticing your capacity to simply observe without wanting anything, desiring anything, fearing anything, resisting anything, craving anything. The moment you notice that which is projecting a future or talking about your life or trying to get something out of this practice or trying to do something more profound, it's almost like you acknowledge that mental arising, but you don't want anything to do with it. You are not that. You are the observer of that arising. But here you are noticing that you don't have to buy into any of those motives, intentions, desires, interpretations. The moment you notice the arising of those opinions or judgments or interpretations or projections, you just discard them right away and drop them right away and bring your attention and your interest to the sensations of the body. And it continues to arise, that mental motive, in many different shapes and masks. It may even arise as, oh, this is a little too hard and I don't know how to drop this. I don't know how to do this. I wonder if I'm doing this right. Or it may even arise in the form of, oh, I wanted something different today. I was hoping for something even deeper. I don't like this practice. Notice your capacity to observe even that, notice even that, and not buy into it, not be interested in it, not believe that to be you, and just discard it and bring your attention back to the sensations. You are training your capacity of just plain attention, paying attention. And you are separating your beingness from any motivity, any intention, desire, fear, resistance, interpretation, judgment, projection. We are learning to differentiate between actual experience, which is the sensation, the sound, the feeling, versus concepts about experience, which is intention, motivity, desiring, fearing, resisting, interpreting, creating images about experience. The sufferer only arises in the form of these concepts. The sufferer is entirely mental, entirely conceptual. It tries to make experience into something that it is not. That is why there's a conflict. That is why it is miserable. Because we live too much, we are too immersed inside of this conceptualization about direct experience. That's why we suffer. That's why we are constantly anxious and fearful. So now we are learning to notice this potential of this sufferer constantly arising within the mind. And just in our moments of practice, in our moments of noticing, discarding it totally through a lack of attention or interest. And we are just learning to simply observe direct experience, sensation. We are learning to simply pay attention plainly, seeing as awareness sees. Plain observation of direct experience without any interpretation or judgment is the position of surrender, is the position of acceptance. What holds us back from noticing the changefulness of phenomena? What holds us back from truly understanding this constant expansion, contraction? Is being too immersed in this sufferer, this constant interpreting and resisting and attaching. Being immersed in concepts about direct experience keeps us identified with what appears in experience. Whereas this practice of learning to observe direct experience at the level of sensation, simply as it is, liberates us from this conceptual reality we live in which we suffer. This conceptual reality, which is riddled with conflict and confusion, fear, jealousy. We are freeing ourselves from the conceptual prison by learning to observe things as they are, learning to observe the sound without creating an idea about what the sound is coming from, learning to observe the sensation without creating an image of the sensation. Labels and descriptions are absent in awareness. Labels and descriptions continue to arise, but we have to be vigilant during our moments of practice to discard them the moment we notice ourselves in them. simply letting them go, dropping them, no interest, no desire to pursue. And just returning to observation of sensation, just being aware of experience as it is in this moment. No notion of me and my life, just awareness of what is at the level of sensation. No story. No conceptualization. Even as you're just observing sensation, and again, the mind continues to arise and, oh, this is the sensation of the body, or this is what the hand looks like. This is what the sound is coming from. You're just acknowledging how there's such a crazy potential right now for this conceptualization. Constantly, reality is being filtered through these concepts, these images, these projections. And you notice that, but don't be so interested. Return to direct experience. Return to the bare sensation level. And that will begin to unlock the secrets of the nature of reality. Because to unlock the secrets of the nature of reality, you have to step out of concepts. And then you find out that these aren't secrets at all, actually. They're really plainly on the surface. But the concepts veiled them. So begin to observe things in this manner. Start to step into judgmentless, motiveless observation. And you will see how that unlocks the clarity that you seek. And even if it's difficult, don't resist. That which says, oh, this is so difficult, or how do I maintain this? Once again, it is also just the sufferer suffering even this practice. The more you buy into it, the more you believe in it, the more you resist against it, once again, it's going to perpetuate itself. The sufferer multiplies itself by getting belief from you, identification from you. Whereas you have to notice even that arising within your mind and not be so interested. We're really learning to notice our capacity to simply be aware. The more we come to just observation of what is, simply being aware, motionless, motiveless, intentionless, the more this sufferer starts to be starved out of existence. And all the conflict and confusion and fear and suffering that it creates also starts to vanish because it cannot last without it. That simplicity and ease that we really seek in life can never be gained as long as we are totally identified at the level of this sufferer. It can never be achieved inside of concepts. So, although this practice seems so simple and like, yeah, just incredibly simple, don't underestimate it. Observation without judgment, observation without concepts, simply being aware. It is the key to unlock all of these universal truths. And it goes hand in hand with our self inquiry practice. Mm-hmm.